WrestleMania 40. We were watching the press conference that happened after WrestleMania 40. Now, there's going to be entire spoilers because we're going to talk about all of WrestleMania 40, both night 1 and night 2. So if you haven't seen it, then go watch WrestleMania 40, then come back, and then you can come and watch this. But other than that, there are certainly going to be spoilers. So first of all, let me just make sure we can get the chat working. So if I press that, that should enable the chat. And without any further ado, let's get into it. I'm joined here by the Baron.
Hello.
And I'm also joined here by Cole.
Hi.
There we are. The True Hulkster says hello. Welcome, True Hulkster. And yeah, the main thing I want to talk about was the final match, Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. Now, I have been watching wrestling since 1998. The first wrestling pay-per-view that I'd seen pay-per-views before, but I wasn't really into wrestling at that point. The first one that I watched, and have watched every single pay-per-view since then, was the Rock's own special house show, or house pay-per-view. It was in your house, called Rock Bottom. It immediately followed after Survivor Series Deadly Games. And in Survivor Series Deadly Games, that's when The Rock changed from the People's Champion to the Corporate Champion. And immediately following that, the next pay-per-view was the 1999 January Royal Rumble, which was right at the start of 1999. And that was the first pay-per-view that I stayed up to watch live in the UK. So that is how long I have been a wrestling fan. Since then, I went back and I have watched every single pay-per-view that has ever happened. I have seen almost every Raw, almost every SmackDown as well, including all the ones through the pandemic. And I like to think of myself as a bit of an aficionado on wrestling. And I was given a great deal of thought about what the greatest match of all time was. For quite some time, and a lot of people disagree with me, I thought Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart in the Iron Man match was arguably the best match of all time. That was then, I think, beaten by Stone Cold versus Rock. All three of Stone Cold versus Rock's matches are actually really, really good. All three of them. I think my favourite is WrestleMania 17. Out of the three of them. And then I really liked Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker. I like Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker 2. I think Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker 2 was actually better than Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels 1. Not because of the match itself, but because of the build and because of what was at stake. That all adds to the match. Everything that goes around the match. If you just take the match out of context. Oh, Miguel says hi. Welcome, Miguel. If you take the match out of context, it's not quite as good. You have to pay attention to everything that came before it and the consequences of what happens after it. And then my favourite match after that was, now it's a well-known fact that my favourite wrestler of all time is Triple H. And the end of an era match that was Triple H versus Undertaker inside the Hell in a Cell with Shawn Michaels as the special guest referee, where there is the super kick into pedigree combo finish, and it really looks like Triple H was about to end the Undertaker streak then and there. I thought was genuinely the best match of all time, and that has been untouched for years. However, I think Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns is legitimately the best match to have ever happened in wrestling history. Everything in WCW, everything in ECW, everything in AEW, everything in NWA, I have never seen a match as good as Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. And we need to talk about why that is such a good match. So first of all, you had Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, and Miguel says I was there. Oh my goodness. Tyler Beckett says amazing WrestleMania. Triple H really knocked it out of the park. I 100% agree. Now let's talk about Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. The first half of the match took place in the ring, and it was the slow-paced, methodical match of Roman Reigns. He would, Roman Reigns, he knows when to go fast. He knows when to slow it down. He knows how to keep the audience's attention. He knows when to play to the audience. It was a masterclass in wrestling. Cody Rhodes goes for the table. Roman Reigns grabs the table, throws it back under the ring. Perfect heel work. Then they go into the outside. They start doing... It's almost like they started off doing the oldest school version of wrestling in the match, just mat wrestling and such. And then they go into the outside, they fight on the outside. That's more like the Attitude Era. They get back in the ring, and then they start doing the false finishes when you get the 2.9 endings. The first point that I said, oh my god, was when Roman Reigns stole the Crossroads. Now, there's been points in the past when wrestlers have stole each other's finishers, but the most notable times it's ever happened was Stone Cold versus The Rock, when Rock gives Stone Cold the stunner and then Stone Cold rock bottoms The Rock. Like, that is some of the hugest things. Another point that was done really, really well was when John Cena and Randy Orton both stole each other's finishers. When I think Randy Orton gets John Cena up for the Attitude Adjustment, and when he does it, John Cena RKO's him from the Attitude Adjustment, and I think it was at one of the Royal Rumbles. Can't tell you which Royal Rumble it was, but I remember that match cleanly. Randy Orton and Cena had a whole load of matches that were just not very good, but there was one match that was amazing between the two of them, where they both knew each other so well that they could perfectly predict. Miguel says 2014. It could very well be. I couldn't tell you for sure. I'm not very good with dates. But when Roman Reigns stole the Crossroads, and then when Cody Rhodes did the spear, I was like, oh my god, like when Cody Rhodes did the spear, there was a legitimate point. So I'm very good at looking at a match and I can tell the finish. And when Cody Rhodes did the spear for Roman Reigns, I was like, oh my god, is that how they're going to finish it? Like there was a legitimate part that I was like, holy crap, and then we saw the first interference, which was from Jimmy Uso, and Jey Uso didn't even get in the ring. Jey Uso didn't even touch Roman Reigns. They wanted to keep it, prestige between the two of them, and everything about it seemed perfect because Jimmy Uso didn't allow Jey to get in the ring. Roman Reigns told Jimmy, go take care of your brother, and they did. They went up, they fought on the rampway, and then Jey spears Jimmy off the side of the ramp, through the tables, taking both of them out of the match. Absolutely perfect. Then the match continued. It got to the point where Cody did the first Crossroads, and he was about to go for the second, and Solo Sikoa comes in. Either that or Cody went for the second Crossroads and he was going to go for the third. Solo Sikoa jumps in, does the thumb, and then they do the tag finisher, the Samoan Spike and the spear at the same time, which we've seen Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa do in the past. And it's a tag finisher, it's not the thing that you normally kick out of. And Cody Rhodes absolutely 100% did. I can see Cole is falling asleep here. And then you had Outcome John Cena. So why was Cena special? It was two parts. First of all, it plays back to the last time that, the last win that Solo Sikoa got was beating John Cena. And secondly, it was a huge surprise. People didn't expect John Cena, one of the greatest of all time, to come out in the main event of this WrestleMania match. Of course, the Bloodline rules, that means anything goes, and huge, massive pop for John Cena to come out, and he does the attitude adjustment to Roman Reigns, he does the attitude adjustment to Solo Sikoa, he does the attitude adjustment to Solo Sikoa through the table. Now, the other part is John Cena was the main guy before Roman Reigns. So basically, the new main guy, the big guy in the WWE right now is Cody Rhodes. Before that, the last main character, for all intents and purposes, was Roman Reigns. Before that, it was John Cena. And then after he does the Attitude Adjustment through the table, The Rock's music hits and John Cena freezes in place. The Rock comes down to the ring, and then you have they do the callback to once in a lifetime that became twice in a lifetime of The Rock versus John Cena, a match that was a year in the making. The two of them stare each other down, and then they do a really, really cool moment where The Rock and John Cena do the part where they stare at each other and they look into the audience in opposite directions, which is exactly what Hulk Hogan and The Rock did at Icon versus Icon at WrestleMania, I want to say 18. But The Rock was on the opposite side. The Rock was now the older legend from the past. And, well, I mean, back then, The Rock wasn't the newcomer, but I mean, and John Cena wasn't the newcomer either, but they recreated that point of Hogan versus Rock, but they did it the opposite way around, which was huge. That was amazing. And then Cena does the "you can't see me," and Rock just grabs him and does the rock bottom, and you're like, oh my goodness, like it just goes to show that the Rock final boss is on a level way above that. Now, the next part was what surprised me. So, to go back to Raw a couple of weeks ago, when The Rock was beating up Cody Rhodes outside, he did it in front of Cody's bus, but on the opposite side, you could see a trailer that had John Cena and it had Stone Cold on it. Now, I think the original plan was for Stone Cold Steve Austin's music to hit, the glass shatters, Stone Cold comes out, and Stone Cold and Rock fight each other off. The two greatest rivals in history. Whatever happened, Stone Cold wasn't there, but they did have Undertaker. And I think if they didn't have Undertaker, what would have happened is Triple H would have came out, because I think that's why they were setting the seeds beforehand for Triple H saying that he wasn't going to take crap off of The Rock. I think that was the backup plan, but I think because they could get Undertaker, they were like, okay, then we're going for that. Now, the other important thing to note here is Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns are the main guys of the past 10 years of wrestling. The 10 years of wrestling roughly before that was John Cena. The 10 years of wrestling before that was sort of The Rock. And before that, even earlier, was The Undertaker. So you had all of these different layers from right back at almost the beginning of WrestleMania. Of course, Undertaker wasn't there for the first few WrestleManias, but he was certainly there before anyone else at this entire WrestleMania was. He headlined WrestleMania 13. He was in WrestleManias before that as well, but The Undertaker was such a legendary presence. And of course, The Rock and Undertaker have had their history before, but it wasn't as notable even as maybe The Rock and Stone Cold. I think Stone Cold was what they really wanted to get, and I think for whatever reason, Stone Cold didn't come. I don't know why, and no one will. Maybe the idea was they were never going to make Stone Cold. Maybe that was just fan speculation. But then they had Undertaker and Rock take each other out, and also the other thing is Cody Rhodes. He did Randy Orton's Power Slam. He did the American Dream's Bionic Elbow. He did his old Disaster Kick. He did the Cody Cutter. He was basically, Cody Rhodes is the perfect wrestler for having all of the different parts of all of the different movesets to go through most of history. And he's the perfect wrestler to beat someone that could be, really Roman Reigns is the end boss. He was the final hurdle, like the one that defeated Cody beforehand, at WrestleMania 39 and everything. And after Cody Rhodes lost at 39, I didn't think that they were going to go down this path. I thought the idea was they were stubbornly going to keep the belt on Roman until Roman Reigns beat Hulk Hogan's streak. Um, and Roman Reigns had said, the point that he loses the belt is the point that he quits wrestling. And I can almost believe that, because after Roman Reigns has held what was originally the Universal title and the WWE title for so long that no one could take it off of him, and then to lose it, what does Roman Reigns have left to do? What stories does he have left to tell in wrestling? And it wouldn't surprise me if Roman Reigns announces that that's him. He's done with wrestling. Thank you and everything. And that Cody Rhodes is the new guy. I could 100% believe that after this. And everything about Charlie Beck says, I was surprised they didn't set up The Rock versus Roman. I think that was the original plan, but I think the wrestling landscape changed, and right, 100%, I think WrestleMania 40 was as good as it was because Triple H was the one driving the car. I think if it had been Vince McMahon behind the wheel, this would not be anywhere near as good as what it was, because up until this point, they would stubbornly stick with something even if it wasn't working. They would just keep hammering it in, hammering it home and everything, and it made wrestling not good for a long time. I've said I've been watching almost religiously since at least 1999, actually before that, 1998, but there's been a lot of really boring, really terrible moments in wrestling, like real slugs to get through. And I genuinely think this is the best point of wrestling, and I think this match is going to go down as probably the best wrestling match in terms of everything that was done, the ring psychology behind it, all the references. So the next part that happened, there was a part that I missed there, I completely forgot about it. It has been an hour and a half since it happened, was when The Rock was in the ring. Seth Rollins comes out, but he doesn't use his regular entrance music. He uses the Shield entrance music, and The Rock has the Mama Rhodes belt, and he's looking, he's like, where's Seth Rollins going to come out, and he's looking around the ring, and he didn't know where Seth Rollins was coming from, and Seth Rollins came out in the Shield gear, and the thing is, when Seth jumped in the ring, Rock had his back to Seth, and it was Roman that knew where Seth Rollins was coming from. Now, if we take this out of meta and we put it into, how people book this, like backstage and everything, then yeah, you book that Seth Rollins is going to come in from the bottom left and everything. But in terms of a story perspective, the character The Rock doesn't know where the character Seth Rollins is going to come in from. And the character Roman Reigns, having been part of the Shield, understands the psychology of Seth Rollins and knows where Seth Rollins is going to enter the ring from. And Roman Reigns has to be the one to protect The Rock. He runs in and jumps in and attacks Seth Rollins, who comes into the ring with a chair, and the chair is real important. That is going to be the smoking gun that will be used later on. That is the Chekhov's gun that has been planted in the ring. So that was a big moment. The Roman Reigns, knowing the Shield history, knows where Seth Rollins is going to come out from. He runs out and he attacks. He does the Superman punch to Seth before Seth can get over to hit The Rock. And I think the next point after that is when Undertaker comes out. So the next part is the Undertaker comes out, he chokeslams The Rock, those two leave the ring, and then the ring is now... Roman is in the ring with the chair, and Cody Rhodes is getting up on one side of the ring, and Seth Rollins is getting up on the other side, and Seth Rollins is wearing the Shield gear. Now, the psychology behind this is amazing, because Roman Reigns chooses that he would rather get revenge on Seth Rollins in the exact same way that Seth Rollins, with a chair, hits Roman Reigns in the back to break up the Shield. Roman Reigns remembers that, and he wants revenge against Seth Rollins to do the exact same thing. He rather hit he'd rather hit Seth Rollins than to hit Cody Rhodes and win the match. And the psychology behind that is that the character Seth Rollins, being the architect, is intelligent enough to know how to provoke Roman Reigns, and that's why he came out in the Shield outfit. That's why he came out with the Shield music, just to get Roman Reigns into that headspace, so that he would be the distraction, so that he would attack Seth Rollins as opposed to attacking Cody Rhodes. And when he does the chair to Seth, he goes into the corner, he discards the chair, and he goes for the spear. He goes for the spear. Cody Rhodes kicks him out of it. Cody Rhodes has had enough time to recover because Seth Rollins took the chair shot, and then Cody does the triple crossroads. And he does two of them, and then you see Cody, he's struggling, he's shaking, he's trying to get Roman to, he's trying to get up to his feet to do the third one to Roman. He does the third one, and then that's the final straw. That's the final thing. And take it out of the characteristic, the main, when you see Cody Rhodes pinning Roman has his eyes closed the entire time, as if he's supposed to be unconscious, but you actually see Roman smile when Cody Rhodes pins him for the 3. So that is a little cool thing. Obviously, Roman wasn't supposed to smile, but I think Roman couldn't help but smile, knowing that was, the story being finished. So I thought that was really, really cool. And 100%, I don't think there was a single botch. I don't think there was a single mistake. I think everything had been planned to a T. Everything made such relevance to so many throwbacks, from Rock versus Cena, Rock versus Hogan, the Shield breakup, all of the different run-ins of John Cena, Solo Sikoa coming in, doing the same style of finish to what they did at WrestleMania 39, and Cody being able to kick out without help. No one ran out to help him with that. Jimmy and Jey Uso taking each other out. Jey Uso not being allowed to come out. Also the fact that Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, all of those people all came out to celebrate with Cody Rhodes afterwards, but they didn't all just run into the ring and just beat up Roman Reigns. They didn't all just come out and just 8-on-1 Roman Reigns. They knew what they were doing. They knew what characters to use and what characters to keep at the back, and the entire thing was absolutely perfect. Tyler Beckett says the fight between Jimmy and Jey on the ramp was better than their match. Tyler, I actually agree with you. I think that little 30-second fight was better than the match that they had in the ring, which is absolutely crazy. So, I've been talking long enough about Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, and everything about it. Even the finish, when he's given the belt and he realizes, and he's like, oh my God, and you see him on his knees in the ring looking up, well, obviously, in reference to, his father, Dusty Rhodes, looking down, and then everyone gets in the ring, and then when he gives the belt to his mother, to Mama Rhodes himself, it's like that was the completion of the story. That's what he wanted to do. He said, I can't put the belt in my father's hands, but I can certainly give it to my mother. And that was such a huge moment in itself. And then Cody Rhodes calling out Bruce Pritchard and Triple H. And once he leaves the ring, you actually see that Nick Khan is in the front row at the corner, and Nick Khan, he hugged and he was talking to, Cody as well. And it really just goes to show that Cody Rhodes is, I think, the future of this era of wrestling. And I really think, although Triple H was the man that had to be in charge, he had to be the one to really stand out and drive us to this point that we're at. But I think it's also that we needed rid of Vince McMahon. He was just so stubborn and everything. He was like, oh no, it'll definitely work, we have to keep going, this storyline. Triple H is able to move and go with the flow of things and go, okay, so this isn't going to do this, so let's go for this instead. And everything all made sense, because the original plans for this year's WrestleMania was that Cody Rhodes was supposed to be beaten up by the Bloodline, not able to make it to WrestleMania. Rock was supposed to face Roman Reigns in his place, and Seth Rollins was supposed to face CM Punk. Now, CM Punk ended up getting injured, so what they had to do was they had to have Cody Rhodes say that he would be challenging Seth Rollins instead, and The Rock would take on Roman Reigns. The audience didn't get behind that, and Triple H listened to the audience. So then Cody Rhodes announces that he's going to take on Roman Reigns instead. And, well, what happens with The Rock? Okay, then now we're going to have this tag match of Rock and Roman versus Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes. So who takes on Seth Rollins? Well, you've got the backup of Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre wins the Elimination Chamber, and that sets up that match as well. The thing is, if it had been Vince McMahon, he would have just kept with the original plan. He'd have said, the audience don't know what they want. I know what the audience wants. We're going to book Rock versus Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is going to win. Roman Reigns is going to retain the title for the next 6 months. He's going to beat Hulk Hogan's record, and then Cody Rhodes is going to beat Roman Reigns at SummerSlam, which by that point, it wouldn't have had anywhere near the impact. People wouldn't have cared anywhere near as much, especially for it to happen at SummerSlam, which was, I think, the original plans. And it really just goes to show that having someone that is willing to actually move with, because wrestling is a living thing. It's not just a stationary point. It's not a book that one person is writing. It is, you get immediate feedback on everything, and Triple H is listening to that, and that is what we have needed for 40 years, for someone to be able to put their ego aside and go, okay, what is best for business? And I don't think we would have had a match anywhere near as good. I mean, I talked about some of the other greatest matches of all time there. Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, everything going into it, the storyline from, winning 2 Royal Rumbles back to back, Cody Rhodes being screwed over, WrestleMania 39, all of the lead up to this, and everything that was on the line, it really felt that if Cody Rhodes lost here, that was him. He wouldn't get into the main event ever again. It felt like if Roman Reigns lost here, that was him. He was quitting the company. It felt like there was so much on the line that neither person could afford to lose. And I genuinely feel it's bigger than Andre versus Hogan. It's bigger than the Mega Powers Collide. It's bigger than Ultimate Warrior versus Hogan. It's bigger than, it's bigger than anywhere of the, I'm a huge fan of Yokozuna. Better than any of the Yokozuna versus Brett, where Hogan won in the end. That was weird. Bigger than Shawn Michaels versus Brett. Bigger than Stone Cold versus Rock. Bigger than... I mean, there was other matches. There was the Fatal 4-Way, McMahon in every corner. That match, not really as good. I'm trying not to mention any of the weaker ones. Bigger than Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. Bigger than Undertaker versus Triple H. Bigger than, Brock versus Roman. Take your pick of whatever one you want. It just felt like there was nothing else in terms of what leads up to the match that felt larger than this. And it doesn't feel like there's, this is literally changing the landscape of the entire game. Pun intended, the Triple H, the game. It really feels like this is a new era of wrestling. And I was watching the press conference and they were talking, Triple H was saying, he lived through the Attitude Era. He was half of the Attitude Era almost. I mean, of course, a lot of it was Stone Cold, but, you need a villain, and he was the villain. He was the heel. He was one of the main top heels at that time. Of course, there was other people, Rock, Undertaker, so on. But I really think that there is a lot going on right now, especially in the past, since 2024 started. I think the past few months of this are better than the Attitude Era. I think it's better than the PG era. I think it's better than the Golden Era. I think this is the best era of wrestling that we have right now. Now, I don't really like doing comparisons because I don't think it's entirely fair, but I'm going to do one just now. If you look at WWE, there is so many top guys, just off the top of my head. Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Damien Priest, even Bobby Lashley, Logan Paul, Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, LA Knight, AJ Styles. A lot of those guys could feel like they could be world champion. If you look at AEW, there really isn't many people that you could say that guy could run the company. You know, there's a lot of really good talent. I love AEW. There is a lot of really, really good wrestlers in AEW, and AEW was an amazing alternative. I think AEW did a hell of a lot to help wrestling by giving them a proper alternative, the likes of which we haven't seen since WCW. I mean, TNA is good, but TNA was never a competitor in the same way that AEW was. AEW made WWE stand up and take notice and actually become good. You know, I think that was also a part of it, as well as, you know, the removal of Vince McMahon. But WWE feels like it has so many stars in it. And if you even go back 10, maybe even 5 years, it really didn't feel like there was that many people that could legitimately have held the belt, you know. Miguel says you have something in your mail. I see that, Miguel. I don't read messages while I'm live streaming. I think it would be incredibly rude, especially if someone sends something personal. So unfortunately, that's just going to have to sit there until I finish the live stream. But yeah, I genuinely 100% think Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns may very well be the greatest match in wrestling history. Any of them. Go back to Bruno Sammartino, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant. Even go to Japan, Giant Baba and things. Antonio Inoki. I don't think there's anything that has the magnitude of Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. And I think there was a lot of things that I think it was very lucky that they got everything to fall in the places that they did. And I think they used everything that they had perfectly. And I don't know if it could have been done with any better competitors than Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. So, yeah, I think this is legitimately the amount of throwbacks, the amount of intelligence that went into this. I think even if you went to someone like Bret Hart, who is very, very methodical and very, very critical about matches, I think he would say that this is, you know, one of the best. That this is up there. The ring psychology and everything involved, the technical aspect, everything about it. Miguel says goat. Yeah, I think, yeah, goated. I think that is what it is. But yeah, so I'm really, really happy that I got to watch this with some really good friends. I was here with Baron, I was here with Cole. Big Bossman and Edge Marquee were here as well, but they both left. It is 5:46 a.m. here in Scotland, so yeah, a lot of them did leave. But I think watching it with friends also helps. During the pandemic era, I really enjoyed the Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar match, where Drew McIntyre beat Brock Lesnar. Of course, I'm from Scotland, so of course I was on big old Drew's side. But I watched that at home by myself, in front of a TV with some dinner in front of me, and yeah, it was really good. But sharing it with people, I think, makes it feel better, and I think I was very fortunate to get to watch it with some good friends that enjoy it as well. Tyler Beckett says, if you go to Clash, you'll get to see Drew win back the title. that would be fantastic. I think I'm going to try and go to Clash of the Castle. The tickets aren't up for sale yet. I think they'll sell out very, very quickly. So I'll see if I can get there, but no promises. Let's talk about the rest of night 2. We'll talk about the rest of night 2 because it's still fresh in my mind, and then we'll talk about night 1. So let's go from the start. So Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins. I don't know how to say this person's name, but he says, "Hi, it's Grand Cat. That WrestleMania was amazing." Yes, it 100% was. I think night 2 really saved it, because we'll get into night 1 in a little bit, and I don't think night 1 really holds up quite as well. But night 2 was fantastic. So Drew McIntyre versus Seth freaking Rollins. The opening move of the opening match for night 2 was Drew McIntyre doing the Claymore. Like, opening move, just opening with the finisher, and almost got the pinfall within like the first 2 seconds of the match, which was like, oh my goodness. Oh, okay. It says that you'll know me as the man is here in your Discord. I know who you are. Welcome to the stream. So the entire thing was all Drew McIntyre sort of just playing with Seth Rollins. I thought it was fantastic when he grabbed the phone and tweeted like on his own thing, just like, "Bored at work, lol." And then, there was some near falls, but in the end, Drew McIntyre does beat Seth Rollins, and then he goes and shoves it in CM Punk's face. He says to the cameraman, "Make sure you get a good shot of this. I want to frame this on my wall." And then, he pushes CM Punk too far. CM Punk uses the metal brace on the arm, hits Drew McIntyre with it, knocks him out. Damian Priest runs out, cashes in the money in the bank, throws Drew into the ring, does the South of Heaven, and immediate pinfall, immediate win. It says here on the wiki that it took 9 seconds. So, yeah, like, very, very cool, huge moment for the cash-in to happen. It wasn't exactly heist of the century the same way that Seth Rollins was, but Damian Priest now has the World Heavyweight title, which is huge. Drew McIntyre was the second one. The man is here says, "Very surprising Seth Rollins came out in the Shield. Thought Dean Ambrose were going to be there." Yeah, I would have been real shocked if Jon Moxley jumped ship back to WWE. He seems to be an AEW guy right now, so I didn't think that was happening. I thought it was just Seth Rollins coming out in Shield gear. So yeah, world title match, really, really good. I was very, very pleased that Drew McIntyre won. I'm not disappointed that Drew McIntyre immediately lost the title. I thought the way that it happened was really cool. That Damian Priest came out. It also gives Drew McIntyre something to go for. It gives him something to continue the story with. Also does a lot for Damian Priest. Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley, both now have the same belt. They've both got the men and women World Heavyweight Championship, which is really cool to have that in the same faction. So then the next match, Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits taking on the Final Testament. Everyone thought that this was going to be the break. This is going to be the thing that's like, well, this match is for no reason. We don't need to pay attention to it. Bubba Ray was announced as the special guest referee match, and it turned into this ECW hardcore match, and it was actually a lot of fun. It really, really surprised me. I didn't have high expectations for it, but it certainly broke the expectations and actually made me pay attention. And I thought it was a really, really good little match. Thought it was a lot of fun. Next up, we had LA Knight versus AJ Styles. Again, I didn't have a big expectation for LA Knight versus AJ Styles, but Alexi says, "Raw." Welcome, Alexi. I didn't have a big expectations for LA Knight versus AJ Styles, but again, the match was really, really good. One of the things that made it better for me was, and WWE didn't mention this, and I'm not sure that WWE was allowed to, but LA Knight versus AJ Styles was actually two of the main guys of two different eras of TNA going against each other, of Eli Drake versus, of course, the phenomenal one AJ Styles. And I thought that was also a really cool little thing that they had going there. It gave LA Knight and AJ Styles something to do. It made them both relevant, gave them a main event slot match, at WrestleMania. So yeah, the entire thing was really good, and LA Knight coming off the win puts him over as strong. Hopefully puts him back in a world title scene. So we'll see what happens with that, or at least puts him in a title picture of some sort, giving him that win, giving him that, that win at WrestleMania. Really helps. Um, Logan Paul versus Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton. I was 100% certain that Logan Paul was winning. There was no way that Logan Paul wasn't walking back out with that United States Championship. The thing that surprised me was that there was significantly less interference than what I expected. I thought Logan Paul would have half the roster come out, in his page book, beating up Kevin Owens, beating up Randy Orton. But no, it was actually a really well done, really, really good match. I'll be honest, I have no idea who iShowSpeed is. Everyone else that I was here with seemed to know who he was, and I was like, oh, okay, well, he seems to be famous, but I didn't know him. And he had his little spot. He did the same thing that KSI did the year before. I didn't know who KSI was either by that point. I know who KSI is now, and I'm sure that I'll look up and find out who Showspeed is as well. But that noise in the background is Baron eating sweets, it seems. If you want to hear what that scratching was going back there. So I really like the Logan Paul match as well. Alexi also says I didn't know who iShowSpeed was either. Yep. So there we are. So at least I'm not the only one. But yeah, I thought that was a really, really good match. It was very cool when Kevin Owens and Randy Orton both went for the pinfall at the same time. Then they realized, okay, are we doing this? Are we changing it? We turning on each other? And then they start, hockey fighting in the middle of the ring. And it all seemed really, really cool. So I don't remember that much about the rest of the match. I might need to watch it again just to see some of the additional points. But the overall feeling was it was a really good match. Then we had Bayley versus Io Sky. So one of the things that really surprised me with Bayley versus Io Sky was I thought it was going to be Bayley versus Io Sky and all of Damage Control. It was going to be a 4-on-1 match against Bayley, and I was worried that Bayley was going to have to be like Bianca Belair, where she was just going to have to be, super strong and beat all four of them. But no, they kept it a 1-on-1 match between Bayley and Io Sky the entire time. They did the lineage, the history of Bayley and Io Sky, having both been in Damage Control. Of course, Damage Control was started because Bayley, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai had all been released from their contracts, again because of Vince McMahon, and they've been brought back by Triple H, and it was really, really cool to see the history of Bayley and Io Sky going after each other, and then Bayley getting the pinfall against Io Sky. I think it was very well deserved. I think it was definitely the right move, and I think it gives a lot more opportunities going forward. I think probably the next one to take on Bayley for the title is probably going to be Dakota Kai. So I think every single match at night 2 was really, really good. Everything was, like zero complaints about any of it. I thought the matches that I thought were going to be bad were a lot better, a lot more interesting than I expect them to be, and everything makes sense. The people that won, I can 100% see where they were going with that. I understand the reasoning for it. Everything just seems to really make sense with that. But let's go to night 1. Night 1, it gets less praise from me. So let's get into night 1. So of course this happened yesterday. So Rhea Ripley defeats Becky Lynch by pinfall. That was 100% the correct move. I wasn't sure what the finish was going to be. Becky Lynch looked like she was going to go for the manhandle slam off the top. Rhea counters it. I thought they were maybe going to do the same finish that they had for WrestleMania 39, where Rhea does the top rope Riptide, but no, instead they turn it around and Rhea does the Riptide into the corner turnbuckle and then picks up Becky Lynch and does a second Riptide, and then that's the finish. And I thought, yep, nope, absolutely, very, very cool. Then we had the tag match, which was a bit of a box of squirrels match. There was another part of it where Damian Priest is climbing the ladder and it's a broken ladder. The referees are trying to tell Damian, don't use the ladder, it's broken, you're going to injure yourself. And Damian Priest says, oh, screw you. And everyone thought that this was the referees trying to screw Damian Priest out of it. They weren't. They were just trying to warn him. Then you see Damian Priest very angrily grabbing the ladder, throws it out of the ring. You know, a new ladder's brought in. The new ladder's brought in by R-Truth, and then Damian Priest has to pretend that he's like, oh, like, you know, R-Truth is trying to put the ladder on himself, and then, you know, he's trying to attack R-Truth on the outside. Bit of a mess there, you know, but it wasn't the worst botch. I 100% saw Miz and R-Truth winning one of the belts. Austin Theory and Grayson Waller winning the belts really confused me. That's not what I thought was going to happen. I thought either Judgment Day would retain, maybe DIY, or if they wanted to be really crazy, Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. But Austin Theory and Grayson Waller was not what I expected to happen, especially when Austin Theory and Grayson Waller have been teasing a breakup for quite a while, and that really surprised me. But it wasn't such a horrible match. I think it could have been mildly better. I think they had a lot of really good spots in it. I think there was a lot of cool moments that they went for. I don't think it was a bad match by any standards. I think maybe the finish could have been a little bit better. I think that match, I kind of need to wait and see what Austin Theory and Grayson Waller do with the belts, and also what R-Truth and Miz do with the belts. I do think it was really good that they split up the Raw and the SmackDown tag titles as well, because I think that has needed to happen. Either they split up the Raw and the SmackDown tag titles, or they unify the tag titles. I think those are the two things that had to happen. I do remember some months ago that they had created unified SmackDown and Raw tag team championships, and they tested out the two different versions on TV, and they just decided not to use them. And then at WrestleMania, they decided that they're going to split them up, that they have enough tag teams on Raw and enough tag teams on SmackDown to split up the championships. So I think that's going to be really cool. I think we're going to have to see where that goes from now on. I think it also means that Judgment Day are going to stay on the one faction. So, you know, they're going to stay on the one show rather than being between Raw and SmackDown. So I think that's going to be interesting. And I think it also gives a lot more opportunities to a lot of newer tag teams. Also, like when they've got proper tag teams, like Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, they weren't really put together, but like they're both single stars, but they work really well together. Finn Balor and Damian Priest, same idea. But like Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, those are a tag team. Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods is a tag team. Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate is a tag team. And that's what we want to see. We want to see actual tag teams, not just two random people, two random singles competitors that are shoved together and they say, this is a tag team now. You're like, okay, they're called Frankenstein tag teams because literally you're just taking two things and you're stitching them together and you're like, oh, let's see if this works. So interesting to see where the tag titles go from now on. Then we had the tag team match of Rey Mysterio and Andrade taking on Santos Escobar and Dirty Dominic Mysterio. This match I thought was terrible. Rey Mysterio and Andrade as the good guys, if they were planning on winning, they should have done it, and Dominic Mysterio and Santos Escobar should have had Angel and Berto interfering, and Rey Mysterio and Andrade should have been the underdogs. They should have had to come over the odds, and managed to beat Dominic and everything. Instead, Rey Mysterio had to win with interference from two big guys from the Philadelphia Eagles, which, you've got that star power coming in. But why did Andrade and Rey Mysterio also have Carlito, Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wilde, Zelina Vega? Why were they all involved? It was an 8-on-2 beatdown, and it makes Rey Mysterio look weak. It makes Dirty Dominic look weak. It makes Rey Mysterio look like a heel. It makes him look bad. It doesn't do anything for Andrade. It doesn't do anything for Santos. It doesn't do anything for Dominic Mysterio. Certainly doesn't do anything for Rey Mysterio. If Dominic Mysterio had beaten Rey Mysterio, then they would have been 1-1 at WrestleMania, and you could have had a blow-off match, you could have had the rubber match, to determine, like, oh, you won the first match, Rey. Dominic won the second match by cheating, by having some interference or whatever. But no, Rey Mysterio wants to win. He did it with a tremendous amount of interference. It just makes everyone look bad. It makes Dirty Dominic Mysterio look like an idiot as well. Why didn't Dominic have all of Judgment Day out there to even the odds? Why was Dirty Dominic essentially playing by the rules and only having Santos with Angel and Berto out there, and Electro Lopez as well? And really, I think that was possibly the worst match of WrestleMania, in my opinion. Next up, we had Jimmy Uso versus Jey Uso, and this match wasn't that much better, unfortunately. Now, I do give them credit because Jimmy versus Jey was a one-on-one fight, and they didn't have interference. There wasn't any Solo Sikoa. There wasn't any Seth Rollins run down to the ring. There wasn't any, there wasn't, they could have had a whole bunch of nonsense happen. They didn't. It was just one-on-one, Jimmy Uso versus Jey Uso. You had Jimmy being the heel, asking Jey to stop, and then he was, doing the heel tactics, and he was getting the attacks in the end. Jey Uso, the heroic babyface, overcomes, he does his part, does the Uso splash for the win, gets the victory, and it didn't really feel like it went anywhere. It doesn't really feel like it does anything for either of the characters either. I think the right person won. I think Jey beating Jimmy Uso makes sense, especially in a one-on-one fight. It goes to show that Jey Uso is the main event, and the only way that Jimmy Uso would have won is if there had been interference, if there had been some shenanigans involved. They had Rikishi there and things, and they just decided not to use them. Maybe they wanted to do away with all the gimmicks, they just wanted to have, a one-on-one heated battle between Jimmy and Jey. But it was an all-right match, and I can't say anything more about it other than that it was all-right. I wouldn't say it was a great match. I wouldn't say it's... I've seen worse matches, but I don't think it really did anything for anyone. Then the fifth match, we had Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, and Naomi, the absolute super team, destroying Dakota Kai, Asuka, and Kairi Sane. So in this match, I think we started with Naomi, and Naomi was beating up all three of them. Then we had Bianca Belair, who we've seen Bianca Belair in the past, 1-on-3ing, defeating, beating up Dakota Kai, Asuka, and Kairi Sane by herself. Then we had Jade Cargill, of course, the brand new person that was, Jade Cargill beating up Dakota Kai, Asuka, and Kairi Sane. So this match was easy to see from a mile away. Asuka has lost every single WrestleMania match she's ever been in. Bianca Belair has won every single WrestleMania match she's ever been in. This is Jade Cargill's first match outside of the Royal Rumble. There is no way that Jade Cargill is losing in her first match, especially her first big WrestleMania match when you've got all this prestige around Jade Cargill. Bianca Belair loves to win at WrestleMania. Naomi is just returned, and Damage Control are on the way down. Of course, we know now that Io Sky lost the championship to Bayley. At the time, of course, we didn't know that. But it just made Dakota Kai, Asuka, and Kairi Sane look weak. Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair, and Naomi, of course, look very, very strong in this iteration. The idea was to put Jade Cargill over, and put her over. They did something powerful. Of course, makes Bianca Belair look like Super Cena, the female Super Cena, once again. It was what it was. I don't think it could have been made any better than what it was. I don't think it was that fantastic a match from the get-go. From what I hear, the original story was they were trying to get Naomi and Sasha Banks, also known as Mercedes Moné, to both come back to the company. And what the original plan was Sasha Banks and Naomi would have taken on Asuka and Kairi Sane for the Women's Tag Team Championship match, for the Women's Tag Team titles, and they would regain the Tag Team titles that they never lost. And that seems like a feel-good moment. It seems that kind of changed to Bianca Belair took the place of Sasha Banks, and it would be Bianca Belair and Naomi, who were now acting as a tag team. They're just taking on Asuka and Kairi Sane. And then somewhere they decided to pull the trigger and they wanted to put Jade Cargill into WrestleMania. They didn't want to put Jade Cargill in a singles match from WrestleMania because if you're in a tag match, you can hide your weaknesses. So it makes sense. Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, Naomi. You've got the veterans there, Naomi and Bianca Belair, certainly to cover Jade Cargill. It also makes Jade Cargill look really, really strong. And going over Dakota Kai, Asuka and Kairi Sane, an established trio tag team. It makes sense. In terms of a booking perspective, I can see where they were going with that. I can see why the match had to happen. I don't think it could be made any better by anything that they did, but I think everything involved, everything in place there. I don't think it could be made any better. I don't think it was a horrible match, but I think in terms of WrestleMania, I think maybe something more special could have been done. I think the tag titles should maybe have been on the line. It maybe shouldn't have been a 3-on-3. Maybe it should have been a 2-on-2. Maybe. I don't think Jade Cargill versus Dakota Kai is really worthy of a WrestleMania match in itself either. I think it was a bit too late to book Jade Cargill versus Bianca Belair. I think they're going to hold that off. They're going to do the long game and make that a big special match. Maybe at SummerSlam, maybe even next year's WrestleMania. Maybe they'll book it a year. But it feels like there was a lot that kind of went on there, and they did the best that they could with it. Then the sixth match, they had Sami Zayn defeating Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship, which confused the hell out of me because if the plan was always to have Sami Zayn defeat Gunther, why did you have the storyline where Chad Gable was going on about how he needed to beat Gunther, he needed a rematch with him, his daughter was crying in the audience and everything. Why did you have that storyline if the idea was for Sami Zayn to go ahead and do it? And if Sami Zayn beating Gunther was a last minute decision, again, why? I really need to see where they're going with this. I think Sami Zayn really, really needs to do something with his Intercontinental Championship, especially after the huge run that Gunther's had with it. And it really, really surprised me. Why Sami Zayn? Sami Zayn's already established. It would have put Chad Gable on the map if he had defeated Gunther. If Ilya Dragunov had been brought up from NXT and he defeated Gunther, it would have really established him as an immediate threat. Alexia says that Gunther's reign was 666 days. That's a number. That's weird. I didn't know that. But why Sami Zayn? Why not have Chad Gable? What I thought going into this match was that Chad Gable would have came out as Sami Zayn's coach, as Sami Zayn's manager, and when it looked like Sami Zayn was about to get the win, Chad Gable would have interfered. Chad Gable would have pulled the referee out of the ring. Chad Gable would have put Gunther's foot on the rope. Chad would have turned heel because Chad's whole thing was he wanted to be the one. He wanted to finish his story, and he wanted to be the one to beat Gunther. But no, instead, all we got of Chad Gable was him backstage with Otis showing off a chair that could take selfies. That was Chad Gable's WrestleMania moment. Which makes zero sense to me. Hang on a second, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to get myself a little glass of water. My voice is a bit dry from talking. Okay. So Sami Zayn versus Gunther, that confused me. It confused me as to why it was Sami Zayn taking on Gunther in the first place. It confused me as to why Sami Zayn was the one that defeated Gunther. I don't know what Sami Zayn is going to do with the Intercontinental Championship now. But Yeah, it just confuses me. I would need to see where they're planning to go with Sami Zayn. I thought it was a cool way that Sami Zayn won. Sami Zayn's big finisher, even in W2K24, his triple finisher is the brainbuster on the top rope, which is what he did. And then he ran to the other side of the ring. He did the hell of a kick, and then he got the pinfall over Gunther. So the way that he won made sense. It was a good match between Sami and Gunther, but I don't know why Sami had to be the one to defeat the Intercontinental Championship streak. It doesn't. Sami Zayn's already established. That's the thing that gets me. And I think Sami Zayn would have been a good foil for the likes of Damien Priest. We've seen Sami Zayn in world title picture matches before. And I don't know what we get out of Sami Zayn being IC champion. And I really hope that Sami Zayn doesn't just drop the IC championship in a month, because if so, then why did he beat Gunther? You know, that confuses me. So then after the Sami versus Gunther fight, so good match. The ending really confused me, kind of put me off. Then we've got the last match of night one, which was the Bloodline, The Rock and Roman Reigns, defeating Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. So I really, really liked this match. I thought this match was absolutely fantastic because Rock and Roman Reigns didn't have the interference from all these other different people. They didn't have the interference from, all the other wrestlers in the Bloodline. Rock and Roman Reigns did it themselves against Cody and Seth. And, when Roman had Cody beat, he still tagged in The Rock. The Rock did the Rock Bottom, did the People's Elbow, and then Rock was the one that pinned Seth Rollins and the pinned Cody Rhodes. Sorry, not Seth Rollins. And I thought that was really, really cool. Seth Rollins was defeated on the outside of the ring. Cody Rhodes is sitting in the ring. He looks depressed. He looks the same way as he did at WrestleMania 39. He's in the ring and Roman's up the rampway, celebrating and everything. And you get Rock and Roman both holding up the People's Championship and the undisputed WWE Universal Championship as well, which I thought was a very, very cool look. It was a very good visual, and it really sets up that, now it's going to be Bloodline rules. Cody Rhodes doesn't stand a chance at day 2, at night 2 even, and I thought it was a really, really cool ending to WrestleMania Night 1, but in terms of the matches, I'm not going to give stars. I'm not Dave Meltzer. But I thought Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch was amazing. I thought it was a really good match. I think the right person won. I think it made sense for the story. And going forward, I think that's absolutely what you want to see happen. Second match, the tag titles. Miz and R-Truth seemed obvious that they were going to win because of the stuff that R-Truth had been going with. I don't know why Judgment Day... Well, I guess we know why Judgment Day dropped the tag titles now, because Damien Priest is now the world champion. But Austin Theory and Grayson Waller seems like they're taking a gamble on them. It seems like there was better gambles out there. Like New Catch Public, Pete Dunne and Tyrell Bate, Johnny Gargano and Smash Ciampa probably more deserved it after everything that they've been through to get to WrestleMania and not have a WrestleMania moment. Then Rey Mysterio and Andrade winning with an 8-on-2 beatdown against Santos Escobar and Dirty Dominic Mysterio. Terrible match. Just awful. Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso. I feel like it could have been better, but I think they both did the best that they could, and there wasn't really any botches, there wasn't really any mistakes. It just felt like there was probably more that could have went into this. There's probably more that could have went into the build-up for it as well. And Jey Uso just defeating his brother Jimmy and, with no cheating or interference. It was fine, and fine is all I can give it. Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, and Naomi in a squash match against Dakota Kai, Asuka, and Kairi Sane. Well, it certainly puts over Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, and Naomi as being strong, but it certainly makes Dakota Kai, Asuka, and Kairi Sane look weak. Looks like Asuka and Kairi Sane should be losing the tag titles. The only reason they didn't lose the tag titles is because the titles weren't on the line because it was a 3-on-3 rather than a 2-on-2. And I think they're probably going to drop those tag titles very, very soon. Sami Zayn versus Gunther. Really confusing finish. Fine match. Ending was really confusing as to why Sami Zayn dethroned Gunther. The other part is there was no interference from in
Imperium.
yeah, there's no. I was going to say Insomnia. There was no interference from Imperium at all. It was just straight up Sami Zayn just beats Gunther. It seemed strange that Imperium didn't even come down to the ring, even when it looked like Gunther was on his his wobbly legs when he was getting ready to lose. So I don't know where that goes. I don't know if Gunther gets a rematch, and even if Gunther does get a rematch, what does he do then? You know, if Gunther picks up the belt again off of Sami, it just starts a new streak, and I don't think anyone really wants to see Gunther hold the belt for another 600 days before he gets to the point that he was at right now. I don't know why Sami Zayn won the belt. That one confused me. But The Rock and Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, great match, absolutely fantastic. Night 2, let's go over that. Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins. Everything happened almost perfectly. It was a fantastic match. I really loved it. Drew McIntyre defeating Seth Rollins. He didn't just. It wasn't just a squash match. It wasn't just immediately Claymore and then just win. They worked for it, and it made sense. The storyline, everything all made sense. Drew McIntyre winning, and then Drew McIntyre's whole story was that Seth Rollins was obsessed with defeating the Bloodline, that he wasn't paying attention to Drew, that Drew ended up winning. However, Drew was trying to warn Seth, you're too focused on this, and then Drew was so focused on CM Punk that he lost the title because of Damian Priest cashing in. It was just this absolutely perfect moment of karma. Everything that Drew McIntyre had warned Seth Rollins about was everything that Drew McIntyre fell into as well. Also means that Drew McIntyre is now going to blame CM Punk for him losing the belt. Also gives Drew McIntyre a reason to go after Damian Priest as well. And I don't know how that works. I don't know if, I don't think, do they turn Drew face? Do they turn Priest face? Are they just going to have it heel versus heel? How's that going to work? Interesting to see how that goes or where that goes. Thought it was really good. Thought it was really, really cool. Bobby Lashley and Street Profits versus Final Testament had no right being as good as it was. It was a really, really fun match. Bubba Ray coming out as special guest referee. Really cool moments. Get the tables. The What's Up segment was also really cool. The entire match was just a lot more interesting than what I expected it to be. Really, really good match. Really enjoyed it. Had a lot of fun with it. LA Knight versus AJ Styles. I didn't have any high expectations for, but lo and behold, it really surprised me. Really blew me away. The right person won. LA Knight beating AJ Styles as well. Puts over LA Knight, gives him that momentum to go into a title picture. I think the right person won. I think that also finishes the story of LA Knight versus AJ Styles as well. So, entire thing, really well done. Really good. Logan Paul absolutely should have retained the US title. I think if Kevin Owens had pinned Randy Orton, or if Randy Orton had pinned Kevin Owens and Logan Paul hadn't been involved in it, it would have sucked. It would have ruined Logan Paul. Logan Paul would have then had to complain about how he wasn't beaten for the title. I think Logan Paul retaining made sense. I thought it was really cool that Logan Paul had the brass knucks. He knocks out Randy Orton. He punches Kevin Owens in the stomach, then punches out Kevin Owens as well. There was that level of cheating involved, and even that wasn't enough. It really showcased. Also, Logan Paul doing stuff like the double buckshot lariat. I thought was a really cool moment. You got to see, the height that Logan Paul can get on the frog splash as well. Really, really big moment. WrestleMania type moments. Randy Orton putting Speed through the table, also a big moment as well. So, yep, that was a really, really good match. Really enjoyed it. Had a lot of fun with it. Bayley defeating Io Sky absolutely was the correct decision. Bayley was the one that 100% should have won. New champion. I thought it was really good that they kept the rest of Damage Control out of the match, kept it one-on-one. They kept the story as just being Bayley versus Io Sky. Really good. And of course, I sung all the praises of Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. I think it might actually be the best match in wrestling history. Go all the way back to WrestleMania 1, watch all of them, all the way up to WrestleMania 40. Take into consideration everything that leads up to each match and the consequences of what happens after each match. And I genuinely don't think that you will find a better match than Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. Maybe there are better technical matches. Maybe there are better brawls. Maybe there is, maybe there's like feel good moments, like Daniel Bryan winning the belt off of beating Randy Orton and Batista and things. But even that's arguable. I mean, I would argue that Cody Rhodes beating Roman Reigns is a bigger moment. But taking everything into consideration, and I genuinely think that you will struggle to find a better match than Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. The fact that it was a one-on-one match as well, the ring psychology of everything that happened, all of the throwbacks, all of the mentions back to everything else, to Rock versus Cena, Rock versus Hogan, The Undertaker doing his surprise entrance. The list of stars that they had, the magnitude, the John Cena interference, everything about it. I think everything was perfect. Seth Rollins coming out and Roman Reigns choosing to get revenge on Seth Rollins for breaking up the Shield rather than going after Cody Rhodes, which inevitably led to Roman Reigns' downfall. Like, if you look at the match in terms of just in universe, why Roman Reigns lost the championship, it comes down to Roman Reigns had the chair and he could have hit Cody Rhodes and just won right then and there, but instead he wanted revenge on Seth Rollins for everything that Seth Rollins put him through, because breaking up the Shield is what transformed Roman Reigns eventually into the Tribal Chief. And to get revenge for that after such a long time, and for Roman Reigns to have that level of memory, and for Triple H, who probably booked the match, to expect the fans to understand that and to know back to that, and for it to be an iconic moment, which of course Triple H was part of, because Triple H was the reason that Seth Rollins hit Roman Reigns in the back with a chair in the first place. Everything involved with that was just so perfect. And then Roman Reigns throws the chair away because he doesn't need the chair, because he's the tribal chief. He's, he is the man, he is the one, he's in God mode. He throws away the chair because he's just going to use the spear and he's going to beat Cody Rhodes. He's going to put an end to this. He's going to finish the story with the bad ending. And he goes for the spear and Cody Rhodes kicks him in the face. And then Cody Rhodes goes for the triple crossroads and he struggles to get into the third crossroads. That is the snores of Cole in the background that you're hearing there. Once again, it is almost 6 a.m. here, so it is late. But for that to be the finish, yeah, it was outstanding and it was perfect. And The Rock helping Roman Reigns into the back. We've seen Roman Reigns being hugged by Paul Heyman at the top of the stage. Obviously it was very emotional for them to lose the Undisputed WWE Universal Championship. Even in terms of the characters, obviously, the character Roman Reigns would be upset, but Joe as a person, to let go of that, huge moment, in terms of, in terms of the characters, the wrestlers, and in terms of the people that play the characters of those wrestlers, because real life and wrestling, they blur the lines, and I think that was a huge moment. And for Cody Rhodes, from the point when he gives the belt to his mum, to Mama Rhodes, as he likes to call her, it's just everything about it was such an amazing feel good moment. It feels like the end of one era. It's the end of the Roman Reigns era, and the Roman Reigns era was like when he was the tribal chief, he was amazing. He was fantastic. But if you think about what Roman Reigns was like before that, when he was being pushed down our throats and no one wanted it and no one cared, and every single big pay-per-view was, oh, it's Roman Reigns, and everyone was booing him, everyone was sick of him. When we had John Cena and he's been rammed down our throats that this is your new guy, you're supposed to get behind him, you're supposed to love him, and people were like, no, we don't. And that was a very, very Vince McMahon thing. But for Cody Rhodes, who people genuinely cheer for, genuinely love, he is the most over babyface for a long, long time. I would argue, certainly since the times of Daniel Bryan, possibly since the points of Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like that is how much he is. And there, I see Alexei saying, I disagree, and of course that is perfectly fine. That's what wrestling's all about, is about disagreeing with opinions. Even I, the Grand Cat, I'm just one man with one opinion. I've been watching wrestling for a long, long time, and those are the opinions of someone that's watched for a very, very long time. That doesn't mean that they're any more valid than someone who's been watching wrestling for 6 months. Everyone has their own right, their own opinion to enjoy it and to discuss and to argue with each other. That is absolutely what I want to happen. I would hate it if people just took what I said and went, yep, there he goes, Grand Cat said that, that's gospel. I prefer it when people argue with me and say, no, I disagree with you. I think that's wrong. This is why I think that's wrong. That's what I like hearing. I like the discussion. I like to talk about wrestling. I like to talk about these stories. That's a large part of it. Wrestling's a much more different thing when you get together with people and you talk about it than when you're just watching it by yourself and no one else is watching it because the show sucks, which it did for a long, long time. And there was points when it was just me that was watching it. It was just me and just Cole. We were the only ones watching it, but when no one else did, because there was points when it was terrible and it was boring. There was even parts where we were just fast forwarding, like skipping through, Raws and SmackDowns because there was nothing worth watching on them. It's like, oh my god, it's just another one of these terrible, crappy matches. And now there's not. It's really, really good. And I think this is maybe the best that wrestling has been. It's certainly the best that wrestling has been in about 20 years, and it's possibly the best that wrestling has ever been. It's arguably better than the Attitude Era. Now, the great thing about the Attitude Era was, for a large part of it, Stone Cold Steve Austin was the main character, and he was super the main character. Like, you were constantly going in, constantly going from what was happening in the match to going backstage to seeing what Stone Cold Steve Austin was doing. Entire shows would be about Stone Cold Steve Austin and Stone Cold Steve Austin beating 8-on-1 matches and things. Like hitting out stunners and hitting people with pull cues and things, and coming out with his various different vehicles that he was driving. But now you've got so many main characters, and Cody Rhodes is a main character amongst main characters, and that feels really special. And Roman Reigns felt like, an end boss beyond end bosses. And, it's wrestling in itself is just amazing right now. And I think really the one we've got to thank for that is Triple H. It's the game, it's the King of Kings himself, big old Triple H. I also think we also have to thank that we've gotten rid of Vince McMahon. That first of all, getting rid of Vince McMahon was a huge thing, and secondly, Triple H, being lucky enough for Triple H being the one to take over stupidly helped. I don't think there was a single person on planet Earth that would have been better at booking it than Triple H. I don't think there's anyone that has studied the game more than him, that knows ring psychology as well as he does, that knows how to book a story, that knows how to book long-lasting stories, to book long-term as well, and to do all of those things. Alexis says Jim Cornette. Well, I'm a big fan of Jim Cornette. I'm a big fan of the experience and the drive-through, but I think Jim Cornette would be an amazing manager. I'm not sure he would be an amazing booker. Alex says, watches Days in TNA. Oh, I was watching TNA back then. I know what Jim Cornette is like, I'm a big fan of Jim Cornette, but I am more of a fan of Triple H. I don't think Jim Cornette could have booked this WrestleMania 40. But yeah, no, I love Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette is the only podcast that I will listen to. There's a lot of podcasts out there. I like watching things like Game Grumps. Having just them talking in the background while I'm doing things. While I'm doing things on Supercard, while I'm doing other things. But Jim Cornette is literally the thing that I'll have on the background while I'm doing something else, and I'll be listening to him and listening to his opinions and things. And genuinely Jim Cornette, makes me laugh a lot of the time. Him and Brian Alvarez, Brian the Lion, and like their takes and things, and some of the things that they say about AEW, I find fantastic and hilarious. I'm not sure that I would even still be paying that much attention to AEW if it wasn't for Jim Cornette, if I'm honest with you. Jim Cornette keeps me up to date on AEW, because there's a lot of times that I go to watch AEW and I'm just like, oh, there was a lot of times back in the day with Raw and SmackDown, where SmackDown was like particularly terrible, and I'd be like, oh my god, I don't know if I can be bothered watching this. Maybe I'll just skip through it. Maybe I'll see if I can find some highlights on YouTube or whatever. But nowadays, I can watch through an entire show, and the only thing I'll skip is the adverts. And I think that just speaks to how good the product is at the moment. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, when AEW is good, AEW is really good. But AEW hasn't been really good for a hot minute. I don't know what it takes for AEW to get back to its prime, where it was beforehand. I think one of the things that AEW is missing is big storylines, things mattering, so, yeah. But it really surprised me that Cody Rhodes beat Roman Reigns, because I didn't see that happening. I thought Roman Reigns was going to retain. I thought they were going to wait until Roman Reigns had beaten Hulk Hogan's record, and then they were going to have Cody Rhodes win. But no, I think they did the absolute right move. They pulled the trigger early, and yeah, you know what? I think it's going to pay off. I think it is going to be huge. This feels like the start of a new era. Triple H said that he doesn't want it known as the Paul Levesque era. He says it's all of our eras, but no, I think he's being humble, and this is, a new era, and I'm really excited, and I'm really looking forward to watching more of it. And that is my opinions of WrestleMania 40. I'm sure you all have your own opinions. I realise that there's been a lot of chat been going on, and unfortunately I've not been able to watch it. I've not been able to read it because I could either read the chat or I could talk about WrestleMania 40. I couldn't do both, and I wanted to prioritise just my opinions, my Grand Cat opinions on WrestleMania 40 and how I felt about it. So, night one, really good opener, really good closer, and kind of mid in the middle. WrestleMania Night 2, one of the best pay-per-views that I've ever seen, with arguably the best match I have ever seen, closing it off with the perfect results. It really was a perfect match. I even said going into this match, I didn't mind who won, whether it was Cody Rhodes or whether it was Roman Reigns. and I said it felt like neither of them could afford to lose. Because if Cody Rhodes lost, I don't see how they could put him in a main event ever again. If Roman Reigns lost, he doesn't really have much of a reason to stay in WWE because he's already done everything, and he's said that himself. He said it as a villain, that once he drops the title, that's him. He's going to quit. He's going to go to Hollywood, that kind of thing. We'll see whether that happens or not. I don't know what the storyline is for him, but hopefully there's something involved for him, or maybe even on Raw, we'll just see Roman Reigns come out and say, that's me, I'm done with wrestling. That was his last match, and if that was his last match, then that's a hell of a match to go out on. It's a match on par with WrestleMania 19 with Stone Cold Steve Austin's last match, where he was against The Rock. So who knows? But that's the joy of wrestling. We'll see what the next chapter in the story is. So I'm really happy with wrestling as a whole right now, and yeah, I think it is really good. It's absolutely fantastic. I would recommend it to anyone. And a few years ago, I wouldn't have recommended WWE to anyone. It's certainly got better. And I think it really started to get better about the time that AEW started being a thing. Because I think before that, maybe WWE was just kind of resting on its laurels. But that's my opinion. It is just the opinion of one big old grand cat. You can let me know whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with me. If you don't agree with me, let me know why. If you disagree with me and just say, oh, I think you're a stupid grand cat, I probably won't reply to you. But if you say, I think you're a stupid grand cat, here's why, I'm more likely to reply to you, and I'm more willing to engage in conversation. So, that's what I enjoy doing. I like talking about things. I like talking about wrestling. I like discussing all these parts. And you can also let me know if you agree with me. If you say, like, yeah, you know what, a lot of the things you said makes a lot of sense. So big shout outs to everyone who joined me for the live chat today. Also, again, thank you to everyone who watches this later on. But that's my opinions on WrestleMania 40. I think I've chatted for just long enough, so I think I am just about ready to head to bed. Maybe the last thing I'll do is put on 2K24 and update some championships before doing so. But that's going to be it for this video. I'm really looking forward to Raw tomorrow night, the Raw after WrestleMania. We'll see if there's any surprises, any new people that jump in, or what's going to happen. But yeah, that is going to be it for this little live stream. I really hope you all enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think of WrestleMania 40 in the comment section below. I love hearing from you guys, especially on videos like this, because I see that Alexia isn't happy. Alexia's saying I'm skipping WWE for a few weeks. But I'm really excited to see what happens next in wrestling. Of course, we've got Clash in the Castle coming up. The next pay-per-view is going to be Backlash, which is going to be held in France. Clash of the Castle is going to be held in Scotland, the home of the Grand Cat. I'm going to see if I can get myself some tickets to go to it. If I can, then I will, and if I can't, then I'll happily watch it at home. But yeah, we will see what happens with that as well. But that's going to be it for this little live stream, folks. I really hope that you all enjoyed. And if you did enjoy it, please give me a like, share, and subscribe. And if you are subscribed, make sure you click that notification icon so you can see when more of these glorious little videos go out. And we shall see you all in the next video. Goodbye, everybody.